What should you do if you cannot do a job in the way described in the method statement? Do not start work until you have talked to your supervisor. Make up your own way of doing the job. Ask your workmates how they think you should do the job. Contact the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Why is the Health and Safety at Work Act important to you as a worker? Give 2 answers. It must be learned before starting work. It puts legal duties on you as a worker. It tells you how to do your job. It tells you which parts of the site are dangerous. It puts legal duties on your employer to provide a safe place to work.
What is the most important reason for keeping your work area clean and tidy? So that the waste skips can be emptied more often. So that you don't have a big clean-up at the end of the week. To prevent slips, trips and falls. To recycle waste and help the environment.
Why is it your employer's legal responsibility to discuss matters of health and safety with you? So that you will never have to attend any other health and safety training. Because they must inform you of things that will protect your health and safety. So that your employer will not have any legal responsibility for your health and safety. So you do not have any responsibilities for health and safety.
Which 3 of the following should be included in a method statement? The directions to the site. The risks you can take. The people involved and the level of competency and training required. The order and correct way the work should be done. The materials, tools and equipment needed.
What does it mean if the equipment you are using is issued with a prohibition notice? You must not use it until it is made safe. You must not use it unless your supervisor is present. You can use it as long as you take more care. Only supervisors can use it.
Which of these is not your legal duty as a worker? Not to interfere with anything provided for health and safety. To look after the health and safety of anyone else who might be affected by your work. To write your own risk assessments. To look after your own health and safety.
After watching you work, a Health and Safety Executive HSE inspector issues an improvement notice. What does this mean? The way you are working has improved since the last time they saw you. You need to improve the standard of your work. You are not working fast enough. You are not working in a safe way. What are 2 possible consequences for employers of not taking measures to prevent accidents and ill health at work? They will need to employ more people. They will have to change the site layout for emergency vehicles. They will lose time and money due to the cost of any accident or ill health. They could be fined or imprisoned. They will damage the environment. Which two topics should be covered in a site induction? The location of the cheapest car park, information on local amenities, holiday dates, the site emergency procedures, the site rules. Who is responsible for managing health and safety on your site? The site manager, the company safety officer, the health and safety executive, HSE, the client.
Who is responsible for reporting any unsafe conditions on site? The site manager only. Health and safety executive, HSE inspectors. The client. Everyone on site. What is a toolbox talk? A short training session on a particular safety topic. A talk that tells you where to buy tools. A sales talk given by a tool supplier. Your first training session when you arrive on site.
Who has legal duties under the Health and Safety at Work Act? Just employers. Just self-employed people. All people at work. Just operatives.
Which two of the following will help you to find out about the site emergency procedures and emergency telephone numbers? Attending the site induction. Reading the site notice boards. Guidance from the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Guidance from your local Job Centre Plus. Looking in the telephone directory.
What should you do if the work of another contractor is affecting your safety? Stop work and speak to the contractor's supervisor. Stop work and speak to the contractor who is doing the job. Stop work and speak to your supervisor. Stop work and go home.
What is the main reason for attending a site induction? Permits to work will be handed out. Risk assessments will be handed out. Site health and safety rules and site hazards will be explained. You will get to know other new starters.
What does a permit to work allow? The emergency services to come onto the site after an accident. Untrained people to work without supervision. Health and Safety Executive HSE inspectors to visit the site. Certain jobs to be carried out safely under more strictly controlled conditions. What does a risk assessment identify? How to report accidents. The hazards in the work environment. Where the first aid box is kept. The site working hours.
How would you expect to find out about site health and safety rules when you first arrive on site? During site induction. in a letter sent to your home, by reading your employer's health and safety policy, by asking others on the site.
What are two possible consequences for you if your employer does not prevent accidents and ill health at work? You will have worse welfare facilities. You may not be able to work, which could affect your income and family life. You will have to work harder. You won't get the training you need. You may suffer an injury. What does the word hazard mean? A type of barrier or machine guard. The likelihood that something might happen. Anything that could cause harm to you or another person. The site accident rate.
The whole site has been issued with a prohibition notice. What does this mean to you? You must stop work because the site is unsafe. You can finish what you are doing and then go home. You are not allowed to use any power tools. You can carry on working because it was nothing to do with you.
You are about to start a job. How will you know if it needs a permit to work? The Health and Safety Executive, HSE, will tell you. Other workers will tell you, and you will not be allowed to start work until the permit to work has been issued. You don't need to know, as permits to work only affect managers. You will be told during the site induction, and you will not be allowed to start until the permit to work has been issued. During site induction, you do not understand something the presenter says. What should you do? Wait until the end, then ask someone else to explain. Attend another site induction. Ask the presenter to explain it again. Guess what the presenter was trying to tell you. What should you do if the safety rules given in your site induction seem out of date as work progresses? Speak to your supervisor about your concerns. Speak to your workmates to see if they have any new rules. Make up your own safety rules to suit the changing conditions. Do nothing, as you are not responsible for safety on site. Who should attend a site induction? Only architects and designers. Only operative level workers. Only supervisors and managers. Everyone going on to the site. What should you do if you have witnessed a serious accident on your site? Tell your supervisor that you saw what happened. Say nothing in case you get someone into trouble. Ask your workmates what they think you should do. Telephone the local hospital. If your doctor says that you contracted Weil's disease, leptospirosis, on site, why do you need to tell your employer? Your employer will need to call pest control to remove rats on site. The site on which you contracted it will have to be closed down. Your employer will have to report it to the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Your employer has to warn your colleagues not to go near you. Why should you report an accident? So that everyone can find out what happened by reading the accident book. It is a legal requirement. So that your company will be held responsible. It helps the site find out who caused it. A scaffold has collapsed and you saw it happen. What should you say when you're asked about the accident? Who you think is to blame and how they should be punished? Nothing, as you are not a scaffold expert. Exactly what you saw. As little as possible, because you don't want to get people into trouble. When must you record an accident in the accident book? Only if you have to go to hospital. Only if you have suffered a broken bone. If you are injured in any way. Only if you have to be off work. Where should accidents that cause any injury be recorded? In the Health and Safety Executive's HSE Accident Database. In the Accident Report Book. In the Site Engineer's Daybook. In the Main Contractor's Diary. If someone is injured at work, who should record it in the accident book? The injured person or someone acting for them? The first aider? The contract manager? Someone from the Health and Safety Executive, HSE?
Who must you report a serious accident to? Site security, the ambulance service, the police service, your employer, you suffer an injury at work, and the details are recorded into the accident book. What must happen to this accident record? It must be destroyed at the end of the job. It must be kept in a place where anyone can read it. It must be sent to the employer's insurance company at the end of the job. It must be treated as confidential under the Data Protection Act and kept for at least 3 years. If you have a minor accident, who should report it? You. The Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Anyone who saw the accident happen. A subcontractor.
How can you help to prevent accidents? By knowing where the first aid kit is kept. By knowing how to get help quickly. By reporting unsafe working conditions. By becoming a first aider. You receive an injury from an accident at work. When should you report it? At the end of the day before you go home. The next day before you start work. Only if you have to take time off work. Immediately or as soon as possible afterwards. What should you do in an emergency? Phone home. Follow the site emergency procedure. Leave site. Phone the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Why is it important to report near-miss incidents on site? To find someone to blame. Because it is the law to report all near-miss incidents. It is a requirement of the CDM regulations. To learn from them and stop them happening again. You are involved in a dangerous occurrence on site, but no one was injured. Who must you report it to? The first aider. The rest of the workforce. Your site supervisor or the site manager. The client for the project.
Which of these does not have to be recorded in the accident book? Details of your injury, the date and time of your accident, your home address, your national insurance number,
When must an entry be made in the accident book? When the accident may result in a compensation claim. When the person has been off sick for 3 days. When management thinks it appropriate. When an accident causes personal injury to any worker. Your doctor tells you that you have hand-arm vibration syndrome, possibly caused through work. What should you do? Inform your site supervisor or employer. Tell no one, as this is not reportable. Just inform your workmates. Tell no one, as it's not contagious. Which of the following is the least important reason for recording all accidents? It might stop them happening again. Details have to be entered in the accident book. Some types of accident have to be reported to the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. To find out who is to blame and make sure they are prosecuted. You have witnessed a serious accident on your site and are to be interviewed by a Health and Safety Executive, HSE, inspector. What should you do? Not tell the inspector anything. Tell the inspector what your workmates have told you. Cooperate and tell the inspector exactly what you saw. Ask your supervisor what you should say to the inspector. Which two of the following items do not have to be recorded in an accident book? The location of the accident, your telephone number, your national insurance number, the injuries sustained, the date and time of the accident. Which of the following statements best describes a near miss? An incident that could have resulted in injury or damage. An incident where someone was injured and nearly had to take time off work. An incident where you were just too late to see what happened. An incident where someone was injured and nearly had to go to hospital.
What is the main objective of carrying out an accident investigation? To find out the cost of any damage that occurred. To record what injuries were sustained. To find out the causes in order to prevent it happening again. To find out who is at fault.
When must an accident be recorded? Only when a person breaks a major bone or is concussed. Only when a person is injured and will be off work for more than 3 days. Only when an accident causes damage to plant or equipment. Only when an accident causes injury to a worker as a result of working activities. Which type of accidents should be recorded in the accident book? Only injuries requiring hospital treatment. All accidents causing any injury. Only specified injuries, such as a broken arm or death of a person. Only accidents where the injured person has to stop work.
While working on site, you get a small cut on one of your fingers. What should you do? Clean it up and tell your supervisor about it later. Report it at the end of the day or the end of the shift. Wash it, and if it's not a problem, carry on working. Report it and get first aid if necessary.
Where is the assembly point in an emergency? In the site welfare facilities. At the site of the incident or accident. At the designated place. In the site manager's office. You have been injured by an accident at work and, as a result, are absent for more than 7 days. Which two of the following actions must be taken? Your employer must inform the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. You must pay for any first aid equipment used to treat your injury. The local hospital and the benefits office must be informed. The accident must be recorded in the accident book. The emergency services must be called to find out how the accident happened. Your doctor has given you some medication. Which of these questions is the most important? Will it make me unsafe to work or operate machinery? Will I fail a drugs test? Will I work more slowly? Will my supervisor find out? What can cause occupational dermatitis? Hand-arm vibration. Sunlight. Contact with some types of strong chemicals or substances. Contact with another person with dermatitis. It is your first day on site. You find that there is nowhere to wash your hands. What should you do? Wait until you get home. Then what? Go to a local cafe or pub and use the wash basin in their toilet. There is nothing you can do, as the site does not have to provide washing facilities. Speak to your supervisor or the site manager about the problem. You suspect someone has been drinking alcohol or is still over the alcohol limit. What should you do? Tell them your concerns and see that they are safely removed from sight. Ask them to stay away for an hour and then go back to work. Get them to drink plenty of strong coffee before they go back to work. Get them to eat and drink something, wait 30 minutes, and then go back to work.
You can catch an infection called tetanus from contaminated land or water. How does it get into your body? Through your nose when you breathe. It doesn't. It only infects animals and not people. Through your mouth when you eat or drink. Through an open cut in your skin.
In what situation are you most likely to catch Weil's disease, leptospirosis? If you work near wet ground, waterways or sewers. If you drink water from a standpipe. If you work near air conditioning units. If you work fixing showers or baths. When should you apply skin barrier cream? Before you start work. As part of first aid treatment. When you finish work. When you can't find your gloves.
The toilets on your site are always dirty or do not flush. What should you do? See if you can use the toilets in a nearby cafe or pub. Try to fix the fault yourself. Tell the person in charge of the site about the problem. Try not to use the toilets while you're at work.
What is the main issue with using barrier cream to protect your skin? It can irritate your skin and give you dermatitis. Some harmful substances will go straight through it. It costs too much to use every day. It is difficult to wash off.
Which of the following species of animal is the most likely carrier of Weil's disease? Rats, squirrels, mice, rabbits?
What are 2 ways of reducing the risk of transferring hazardous substances from your hands to your mouth? Wearing protective gloves while you are working. Wearing protective gloves, then turning them inside out before eating. Washing your hands before eating. Putting barrier cream on your hands before eating. Washing your work gloves, then putting them on again before eating. What other illness can be easily confused with the early signs of Weil's disease, leptospirosis? Diabetes, influenza, flu, dermatitis, hay fever. What condition can be caused by direct sunlight on bare skin? Skin cancer, rickets, acne, dermatitis. How can everyone on site help keep rats away? Put all food and drink rubbish in bins provided. Ask the local authority to put down rat poison. Throw food scraps over the fence or hoarding. Put rat traps around the site. What should you use to clean very dirty hands? Soap and water, paraffin, thinners, white spirit. What are the legal minimum facilities that should be provided on site for washing your hands? Hot and cold water, soap, and a way to dry your hands. Nothing. There is no need to provide washing facilities. A cold water standpipe and paper towels. A bowl, kettle, and towel.
What sort of rest area should your employer provide on site? Nothing. Employers don't have to provide rest areas. A covered area and some chairs. A covered area, tables and chairs, and something to heat water and food. A covered area.
Why should you not use white spirit or other solvents to clean your hands? They may remove several layers of skin. They could strip the protective oils from the skin. They could block the pores of the skin. They may carry harmful bacteria that attack the skin. What should not be in a first aid box? Safety pins, bandages, tablets and medicines, plasters. If someone working in a deep manhole has collapsed, what should you do first? Shout to raise the alarm, as a trained rescue team will be needed. Climb into the manhole and give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Go and tell your supervisor. Get someone to lower you into the manhole on a rope. What should you do if you want to be a first aider? Ask if you can do a first aider's course. Speak to your doctor about it. Watch a first aider treating people, then try it yourself. Buy a book on first aid and start treating people. Someone has got a nail in their foot. You are not a first aider. Why must you not pull the nail out? You will let air get to the wound. It will prove that the casualty was not wearing safety boots. The nail is helping to reduce the bleeding. The nail is helping to keep their boot on. What is the first thing you should do if you are on your own and you find an injured person? Go and find your supervisor. Move the injured person to a safe place and then find your supervisor. Ask the injured person what happened and then raise the alarm. Shout and raise the alarm for medical help.
Someone gets a large splinter in their hand. It is deep under the skin and it hurts. What should you do? Make sure they get first aid. Try to squeeze out the splinter with your thumbs. Tell them to ignore it and let the splinter come out on its own. Use something sharp to dig it out.
If someone gets grit in their eye, what is the best thing you can do? Ask them to rub the eye until it starts to water. Hold the eye open and flush it with sterilized water or eye wash. Tell them to blink a couple of times. Hold the eye open and wipe it with clean tissue paper. Someone has fallen from height and has no feeling in their legs. What should you do? Don't move them in any way until medical help arrives. Roll them onto their side and bend their legs. Raise their legs to see if any feeling comes back. Roll them onto their back and keep their legs straight. If someone is in contact with a live cable, what should you do first? Switch off the power and call for help. Pull them away from the cable. Dial 999 and ask for an ambulance. Phone the electricity company.
Someone collapses with stomach pain and there's no first aider on site. What should you do first? Get them to sit down. Give them some painkillers. Get them to lie down in the recovery position. Get someone to call the emergency services. When would you expect eye wash bottles to be provided? Only on sites where refurbishment is being carried out. Only on demolition sites where asbestos has to be removed. On all sites where people could get something in their eyes. On all sites where showers are needed. What is the one thing a first aider cannot do for you? Stop any bleeding. Give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Treat you if you are unconscious. Give you medicines without authorization. The first aid box on site is always empty. What should you do? Find out who is taking all the first aid supplies. Find out who looks after the first aid box and let them know. Bring your own first aid supplies into work. Ignore the problem. It's always the same. Does your employer have to provide a first aid box? Only if more than 25 people work on site. Only if more than 50 people work on site. Yes, every site must have one. No, there is no legal duty to provide one.
If you are not trained in first aid and someone is knocked unconscious, what should you do first? Slap their face to wake them up. Give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Turn them over so they are lying on their back. Send for medical help. If you think someone has a broken leg, what should you do? Lie them on their back. Send for the first aider or get other help. Lie them on their side in the recovery position. Use your belt to strap their legs together. If you cut your finger and it won't stop bleeding, what should you do? Wash it clean, then carry on working. Tell your workmates. Wrap something around it and carry on working. Find a first aider or get other medical help. If someone burns their hand, what is the best thing you can do? Wrap your handkerchief around the burn. Tell them to carry on working to exercise the hand. Put the hand into cold water or under a cold running tap. Rub barrier cream or Vaseline into the burn. How should you be informed about what to do in an emergency? Give 2 answers. By reading the site notice boards. By looking in the health and safety file. By attending the site induction. By asking at the local hospital. By asking the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. If there is an emergency while you are on site, what should you do first? Leave the site and go home. Phone home. Phone the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. Follow the site emergency procedure. Where will you find out about emergency assembly points? A method statement. The site induction. A risk assessment. The permit to work. When working in cold weather, what additional measures can you wear under your hard hat? A baseball cap with a peak to keep the rain out of your eyes. A jumper with a detachable hood. Manufacturer's attachment edition for use in cold weather. A woolly hat. What condition could be prevented if you wear the correct gloves while handling a hazardous substance? Vibration white finger. Skin disease. Raynaud's syndrome. Arthritis. Do all types of glove protect hands against chemicals? No, different types of glove protect against different types of hazard. Only if you put barrier cream on your hands as well. Only if you cover the gloves with barrier cream. Yes, all gloves are made to the same standard. You have been given disposable foam earplugs to use, but they keep falling out. What should you do? Throw them away and work without them. Put rolled up tissue paper in each ear. Put 2 earplugs in each ear so they stay in place. Stop work until you get more suitable ones and are shown how to fit them. What type of eye protection do you need to wear if you are using a cartridge-operated tool or compressed gas tool? Light eye protection or safety glasses? Impact-rated goggles? None. They aren't needed as there is a minimal risk of injury. Normal prescription glasses or sunglasses? When should high-visibility clothing be replaced? When it is 1 year old. When it has been washed. It has been left outside in adverse weather conditions. If it is soiled or damaged. What should you do if you drop your safety helmet from height onto a hard surface? Work without a safety helmet until you can get a new one. Stop work and get a new safety helmet. Make sure there are no cracks, then carry on wearing it. Repair any cracks, then carry on wearing it. What should you do if you have to raise your voice to make yourself heard on site? Stop work and raise it with your supervisor. Pack up and go home. Tell the person making the noise to stop work. Carry on working. It is not a problem. If you have to work outdoors in bad weather, why should your employer supply you with correctly fitting waterproof clothing? So you need to take fewer breaks. You are less likely to catch Weil's disease, leptospirosis, if you're warm and dry. You need protecting from the weather and are less likely to get muscle strains if you are warm and dry. They prevent slips and trips.
When do you need to wear eye protection? If there is a risk of eye injury and if it is the site rules. When your employer can afford it. Only if you work with chemicals. On very bright sunny days.
You need to use a grinder, cut-off saw, cartridge tool or nail gun. What type of eye protection will you need? Impact-rated goggles or full face shield? Welding goggles. Light eye protection, safe. Reading glasses or sunglasses. How should you wear your safety helmet to get maximum protection from it? Back to front. square on your head. Pulled forward. Pushed back on your head.
You need to wear a full body harness. You've never used one before. What should you do? Read the instruction book. Ask someone already wearing a harness to show you what to do. Try to work it out for yourself. Ask for expert advice and training.
What should you wear if there is a risk of materials flying into your eyes? Chemical-rated goggles. Laser safety glasses. Tinted welding goggles. Impact-rated goggles. When should you wear safety footwear on site? Only when working at ground level or outside. Until the site starts to look finished. When you are working all day on site and not just visiting. All the time.
Do you have to pay for any personal protective equipment, PPE, you need? Yes, you must pay for all of it. Only if you need to replace lost or damaged PPE. Yes, but you only have to pay half the cost. No, your employer must pay for it.
When is the only time that you do not need to wear head protection on site? If you are working in very hot weather. If you are self-employed. If you are working alone. If you are in a safe area like the site office or canteen. When must your employer provide you with personal protective equipment, PPE? If it is in the contract. Twice a year. If you pay for it. If you need to be protected. What will safety footwear with a protective midsole protect you from? Nails or sharp objects puncturing the sole of your foot if you stand on them. Getting blisters in warm, wet conditions. Twisting your ankle. Spillages which may burn the sole of your foot. Which of the following statements about wearing a safety helmet in hot weather is true? You must take it off during the hottest part of the day. You can drill holes in it to keep your head cool. You can wear it back to front if it is more comfortable that way. You must wear it at all times and in the right way. What should you do if your personal protective equipment, PPE, gets damaged? Stop what you're doing until it is replaced. Throw it away and work without it. Carry on wearing it, but work more quickly. Try to repair it. Which of these statements about personal protective equipment, PPE, is not true? You must store it correctly when you are not using it. You must use it as instructed. You must pay for any damage or loss. You must report any damage or loss to your supervisor.
Who should provide you with any personal protective equipment, PPE, you need, including the means to maintain it? You must buy your own. No one has a duty to provide it. Your employer? Anyone on site with a budget?
You are about to start a job. How will you know if you need any extra personal protective equipment, PPE? You will always need it. A letter will be sent to your home. From the risk assessment or method statement. By looking at your employer's health and safety policy. What should you do if the water you are using to control dust runs out? Carry on, but get someone to sweep up afterwards. Put on additional respiratory protection. Stop and refill the water. Ask everyone to clear the area and then carry on. What should you not do when sweeping up after drilling, cutting, sanding or grinding? Put your respiratory protective equipment back on. Dampen down the area. Make sure there is plenty of ventilation. Sweep as quickly as possible as it will minimize exposure to dust. You are planning work that needs to use a power tool to cut or grind materials. Select the two most efficient ways to control the dust. Wet cutting. Fit a dust extractor or collector to the machine. Keep the area clean and tidy. Work slowly and carefully. Wear respiratory protective equipment. What is the best way to limit exposure to dust when using a power tool? Only undertake the work during damp or wet weather. Stand downwind of any dust. Do the work quickly. Stop dust getting into the air. What is the biggest cause of long-term health issues in the construction industry? Being struck by a vehicle. Loud noise. Breathing in hazardous dust and fumes. Slipping and tripping. When drilling, cutting, sanding or grinding, which one of the following is the best way to protect your long-term health from harmful dust? Wear any disposable respiratory protective equipment, RPE, high-vis jacket, hearing protection and impact-rated goggles. Wear FFP3 rated respiratory protective equipment, RPE, a high-vis jacket and impact-rated goggles. Use dust extraction or wet cut. Wear FFP3 rated respiratory protective equipment, RPE, hearing protection and impact-rated goggles. Use dust extraction or wet cut and wear a hard hat, high-vis jacket and light eye protection.
You need special respiratory protective equipment, RPE, to handle a chemical. None has been provided. What should you do? Get on with the job, but try to work quickly. Sniff the substance to see if it makes you feel ill. Do not start work until you have been given the correct RPE and training. Start the work, but take a break now and again.
Which of the following activities does not create harmful silica dust? Chasing out walls and mortar joints or sweeping up rubble. Sawing timber or plywood. Cutting curbs, stone, paving slabs, bricks and blocks. Breaking up concrete floors and screeds. You have been asked to do some work that will create dust. What should you do? You should not do the work. Dust is highly dangerous. Start work. No controls are needed as dust cannot cause serious harm or injury. Use equipment to eliminate or reduce the dust and wear the correct personal protective equipment, PPE. Work for short periods at a time. Which of the following is not a health effect of being exposed to paints and resins which have high levels of solvents? Headaches and sickness, drowsiness or poor coordination, hearing loss, dermatitis or skin problems.
Exposure to which of the following may not result in lung disease? Strong smells, bird droppings, silica dust, asbestos,
What can cause occupational asthma? Skin contact with any hazardous substance, exposure to loud noise, breathing in hazardous dust, fumes or vapours, exposure to rat urine. If you use a power tool to cut or grind materials, why must the dust be collected and not allowed to get into the air? Most dust can be harmful if breathed in. To save time and avoid having to clear up the mess. You do not need a machine guard if the dust is collected. The tool will go faster if the dust is collected. Where are you likely to breathe in the highest quantities of dust when drilling, cutting, sanding or grinding? Outside on a windy day. In a large indoor space. In a small room. Outside on a still day. Which of the following do you not need to do to ensure that someone's mask works? Check it is being worn correctly. Check the wearer has passed a face fit test wearing the mask. Put it under water to make sure the seals are tight. Check the mask is the correct type needed. What illness might you develop if you breathe in dust and fumes over time? Skin cancer, laryngitis, occupational lung disease, occupational dermatitis. Why is it important to be clean-shaven if using a half-mask respirator? You may suffer an allergic reaction to the mask. Facial hair can affect the seal around the face. You will be able to use the same mask for longer. The filter will become blocked more quickly. What should you do if you find pigeon droppings and nests in an area where you are required to work? Wait for the pigeons to fly away before carrying on with your work. Stop work and seek advice. Try to catch the pigeons. Carry on with your work carefully so you don't disturb them. You have been given a dust mask to protect you against hazardous fumes. What should you do? Start work, but take regular breaks. Do not start work until you have the correct respiratory protective equipment, RPE. Wear a second dust mask on top of the first one. Do the job wearing the mask, but work quickly. What must you ensure when using water to keep dust down when cutting? That water is poured onto the surface before you start cutting. That there is as much water as possible. That the water flow is correctly adjusted. That someone stands next to you to pour water from a bottle. What must you do when working in a hearing protection zone? Not make any noise. Wear the correct hearing protection at all times. Take hearing protection with you in case you need to use it. Wear hearing protection if the noise gets too loud for you. Why is overexposure to vibratory tools and equipment a serious issue? There is no way that exposure to vibration can be prevented. There are no early warning signs of damage caused by vibration. The long-term effects of vibration are not known. Vibration can cause disabling injuries that cannot be cured. How can noise affect your health? Dizziness and nausea. Permanent hearing loss. Ear infections. Temporary hearing loss. Waxy ears. If you have to use a vibrating tool, what would you expect your supervisor to do? Help you to make up your own safe system of work. Explain the risk assessment, the safest way and length of time each day that you can use the tool. Watch you use the tool to assess the level of vibration. Measure the level of vibration every time you use the tool. Someone near you is using noisy equipment and you have no hearing protection. What should you do? Speak to the other person's supervisor. Ask them to stop what they are doing. Leave the area until you have the correct personal protective equipment, PPE. Carry on with your work. You are not the person using the equipment. What health problem can be caused by using handheld vibrating tools? Skin irritation like dermatitis. Damage to the blood vessels and nerves in your fingers and hands. Skin cancer. Blisters on your hands and arms. If you need to wear disposable foam earplugs, how should you insert them so they protect your hearing from damage? Roll them up and insert them as far as you can, while pulling the top of your ear up to open up the ear canal. Do not roll or fold them and insert them halfway into your ear canal. Soak them in water, squeeze them out, and then insert them into your ear canal. Fold them in half, pull on your earlobe and wedge them into your ear. What should you do if you think the noise at work may have damaged your hearing? Ask your employer or doctor to arrange a hearing test. Nothing, as the damage has already been done. Plug your ears with cotton wool to stop any more damage. Go off sick. Can the damage by exposure to noise over a long period of time be reversed? Yes, if you change jobs. Yes, if you have an operation. Yes, with time. No, the damage is permanent. What should you do if you need to wear ear defenders but an ear pad is missing from one of the shells? Put them on and start working with them as they are. Leave them off and work without any hearing protection. Take an ear pad from another set of ear defenders. Do not work in noisy areas until they are replaced. What does wearing hearing protection do? Stops you hearing all noise. Makes you hear better. Reduces damaging noise to an acceptable level. Repairs your hearing if it is damaged.
You have been using a vibrating tool. The ends of your fingers are starting to tingle. What does this mean? You need to report your symptoms before they cause a problem. You must not use this tool or any other vibrating tool ever again. You can carry on using the tool, but you must hold it tighter. You can carry on using the tool, but you must loosen your grip.
What are 3 early signs of hand-arm vibration syndrome, HAVS, HAVS? Tingling or pins and needles sensation in the fingers. Rash on the fingers. Fingertips turn white. Blisters. Temporary loss of feeling in the fingers. You are less likely to suffer from hand-arm vibration syndrome, HAVS, if you feel which of the following? Cold but dry. Warm and dry. Wet but warm. Cold and wet. What are 2 recommended ways to protect your hearing? Ear defenders. Rolled tissue paper. Cotton wool pads over your ears. Soft cloth pads over your ears. Earplugs. Noise can damage your hearing. What are the symptoms and signs of hearing damage? Ear infections and headaches. Difficulty understanding words, especially against background noise or in a crowd of people. There are no symptoms or signs. Nausea and a skin rash around your ears. If you have to use a vibrating tool, how can you help reduce the effects of hand-arm vibration? Do not smoke, as it affects blood circulation. Do the job in one long burst. Hold the tool as tightly as you can and work quickly. Only use one hand at a time on the tool. Which one of these tools is the most likely to cause hand-arm vibration syndrome, HAVS, HAVS? Hammer and chisel. Handsaw. Hammer drill. Battery-powered screwdriver. If you have a ringing sound in your ears after working with noisy equipment, what does this mean? The noise level was high but acceptable. Your hearing has been temporarily damaged. You have also been subjected to vibration. Your hearing protection was working properly. What is hand-arm vibration syndrome, HAVS, HAVS? A range of conditions that can lead to permanent damage. A serious skin condition that will not clear up. Severe frostbite. A mild skin rash that will go away. Noise levels may be a problem if, in general, you have to shout to be understood when someone is standing how far away? 5 meters away. 4 meters away. 2 meters away. 6 meters away.
If you need to use a vibrating tool, even for a short time, how can you help reduce the risk of hand-arm vibration? Do not grip the tool too tightly. Hold the tool away from you at arm's length. Use more force. Hold the tool more tightly.
Which of the following provides health and safety information about a hazardous substance? The COSH assessment. The manual handling assessment. The delivery note. The site diary. What should you do if you see this label on a container or packaging? Use the substance very carefully and make sure you don't spill it or splash it on yourself. Find out what protection you need, as the substance is toxic even in low quantities. Make sure it is stored out of the reach of children. Do not use the substance, as it is poisonous. Why should you wear Wellington boots when working in wet cement? To stop your trousers getting wet. To prevent dermatitis and skin burns. To allow you to walk faster through the cement. To keep your feet warm. What illness might you develop if you breathe in asbestos dust? Aching muscles and painful joints. Throat infections. Lung diseases. Dizziness and headaches. Exposure to asbestos fibres may result in which disease? All of these answers. Asbestosis. Lung cancer. Mesothelioma. What should you do if you see this label on a container or packaging?
Use sparingly, as substance is expensive. Find out what protection you need, as the substance is harmful and could damage your health. Wear gloves, as the substance can burn your skin. Do not use it as the substance is poisonous.
What does a COSH assessment tell you? How a substance might harm you and how to protect yourself when you are using it. How noise levels are assessed and how to protect your hearing. How to work safely in confined spaces. How to lift heavy loads and how to protect yourself. What does this sign mean? Substance will cause heartburn if swallowed. Substance can explode. Substance can cause long-term serious health problems. Substance can glow in the dark. What should you do if you see this label on a container or packaging? Find out how to handle the substance as it is fragile. Find out how to use the substance safely as it could catch fire easily. Find out how to use the substance safely as it could explode. Do not use the substance as it could kill you.
How can you tell if a product is hazardous? By warning symbols on the container or packaging label. It will always be in a black container. It will always be in a cardboard box. By the shape of the container.
Where are you most likely to come across asbestos? Asbestos has now been removed from all buildings. In industrial buildings built after the year 2000. In any building built or refurbished before the year 2000. In a house built between 1950 and 2005. What is the safest way to use a hazardous substance? Asking someone who has already used it. Understanding the COSH assessment and following the instructions. Getting on with the job as quickly as possible. Reading your employer's health and safety policy.
You need to use a hazardous substance. Who should explain the health risks and safe method of work you need to follow? The COSH assessment. Before you start. A health and safety executive, HSE inspector. The site security people. Your supervisor or employer. The site first aider.
If you think you have found some asbestos, what is the first thing you should do? Stop work and warn others. Find the first aider. Take a sample to your supervisor. Put the bits in a bin and carry on with your work. What should you do if you see this label on a container or packaging? Find out what protection you need, as the substance is corrosive and can damage your skin upon contact. Wash your hands after you have used the substance. Find out what hand cleaner you will need, as the substance will not wash off easily. Do not use it, as the substance is poisonous. Which three of the following should be labelled with this sign? Any product containing asbestos. Raw asbestos. Plasterboard waste. Recyclable waste. Asbestos waste. You find an unmarked container that you think might contain chemicals. What is the first thing you should do? Ensure that it remains undisturbed and report it. Put it in a bin to get rid of it. Smell the chemical to see what it is. Move it to somewhere safe. What does the word sensitizer mean on the packaging of a substance? It must be mixed with water before you can use it. That you could become allergic to it and have allergic reactions. It should not be used under any circumstances. It is perfectly safe to use without personal protective equipment, PPE. Why are wet cement, mortar and concrete hazardous to your health? They can cause skin burns and dermatitis. They can cause dizziness and headaches. They can cause muscle aches. They can cause arc eye.
After asbestos, which of the following causes the most ill health to construction workers? Diesel fumes, resin, solvent and paint vapours, silica dust, wood and MDF dust. How can asbestos be correctly identified? The dust gives off a strong smell. By putting a piece in water and seeing if it dissolves. By the colour of the dust. By getting a sample analysed in a lab.
What should you do if you see this label on a container or packaging? Dispose of the substance or contents by burning. Find out how to use the substance safely, as it could explode. Warm up the contents first with heat or a naked flame. Find out how to use the substance safely, as it is flammable, could catch fire easily. What does it mean if you have to twist or turn your body when you lift and place a load? Nothing. You can lift the same weight as usual. You must wear a back brace. The weight you can lift safely will be less than usual. The weight you can lift safely will be more than usual. How should you stand if you need to lift a load from the floor? With your feet slightly apart, one leg slightly forward and knees bent. With your feet together, legs straight and back bent. With your feet wide apart, legs straight and back bent. With your feet together and knees bent in a deep squatting position.
You need to move a load that is heavier on one side than the other. How should you pick it up? With the heavy side on your strong arm, with the heavy side on your weak arm, with the heavy side towards you, with the heavy side away from you,
You have to move a load that might be too heavy for you. You cannot divide it into smaller parts, and there is no one to help you. What should you do? Try to lift it using the correct lifting methods. Get a forklift truck, even though you have not been trained to use it. Do not move the load until you have found a safe method. Lift and move the load quickly to avoid injury.
which part of your body is most likely to be injured if you lift heavy loads? Your back, your shoulders, your knees, your elbows.
Who should be involved in planning the safe system of work for your manual handling? You, your supervisor or employer, the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, you and your supervisor or employer. What is the outcome of wearing a back support belt when lifting? You could face the same risk of injury as when you are not wearing one. It will crush your backbone and damage it. You can lift any load without being injured. You can safely lift more than usual.
You need to reach above your head and lower a load to the floor. Which of these is not true? The load will be more difficult to control. You can safely handle more weight than usual. You will put extra stress on your arms and your back. It will be more difficult to keep your back straight and chin tucked in.
What are two risks of carrying a load in cold, damp conditions? The load will be easier to carry. You will need to work more quickly to warm up. The load will feel lighter due to the cold conditions. The path could be slippery. Your ability to carry the load safely will be reduced. What three of the following factors must you think about to lift a load safely? Is the content of the load insured? What is the value of the load? How to grip or hold it firmly? Its size and shape? Its weight? Which of the following is the best method to help minimize the risk of injury when manual handling? Asking a trained person to carry the load. Safely using lifting aids. Making the area of sight flatter before performing the task. Not having any heavy objects on site. What should you do if you have to carry a load down a steep slope? Assess whether you can still carry the load safely. Put the load down and let gravity move it down the slope. Carry the load on your shoulder. Walk backwards down the slope to help you balance. What is the main reason for using lifting aids when undertaking a manual handling activity? You can lift any load with a lifting aid. Lifting aids are expensive and should be used. You do not require training to use them. They help reduce the risk of personal injury. You have to move a load while you are sitting down. How much can you lift safely? 3 times the usual amount. 3 times the usual amount. Less than the usual amount. The usual amount. Twice the usual amount. What 2 things are important for the use of manual handling lifting aids? The user must hold a CSCS card. The lifting aid can only be used outside. The lifting aid must be designed for the task. The user must be trained in the correct use of the lifting aid. The lifting aid must not be more than 6 months old. You are using a wheelbarrow to move a heavy load. Is this manual handling? Only if the load slips off the wheelbarrow. Yes, you are still manually handling the load. Only if the wheelbarrow is pulled instead of pushed. No, because the wheelbarrow is carrying the load. What must all workers do under the regulations for manual handling? Make a list of all the heavy things they have to carry. Follow their employer's safe systems of work. Lift any size of load once the risk assessment has been done. Wear back support belts when lifting anything.
You need to lift a load that is not heavy, but it is so big that you cannot see in front of you. What should you do? Ask someone to help carry the load so that you can both see ahead. Get someone to walk next to you and give directions. Get someone to walk in front of you and tell others to get out of the way. Move the load on your own, because it is so large that anyone in your way is sure to see it.
You need to move a load that might be too heavy for you. What 3 methods could you use? Dragging the load to avoid lifting it. Using an aid, such as a trolley or wheelbarrow. Getting someone to help you. Dividing the load into smaller loads if possible. Testing the load's weight by picking it up for a short time.
You are using a trolley to move a heavy load a long distance, and a wheel comes off. What should you do? Find another way to move the load. Carry the load the rest of the way. Drag the trolley on your own the rest of the way. Ask someone to help you pull the trolley the rest of the way.
What is an advantage of adopting safe manual handling methods? You can protect your back and reduce the risk of injury. You can increase your strength. You can lift heavier loads. You can leave work earlier that day. What is the main reason for ensuring safe manual handling techniques in the workplace? To prevent personal injury. To be prepared for safety inspections. To complete the job quickly. to satisfy the client's requirements.
You've been told how to lift a heavy load, but you think there's a better way to do it. What should you do? Ignore what you've been told and do it your way. Discuss your idea with your supervisor. Forget your idea and do it the way you've been told. Ask your workmates to decide which way you should do it. You have to lift a heavy load. What must your employer do? Make sure your supervisor is there to advise while you lift. Watch you while you lift the load. Do a risk assessment of the task. Nothing. It is part of your job to lift loads.
Which of the following is a manual handling task? Climbing ladders or stairs? Getting in and out of a vehicle used at work? Activities involving pushing, pulling, lowering and lifting? Lifting materials with a crane?
Your new job involves some manual handling. An old injury means that you have a weak back. What should you do? Tell your supervisor you can lift anything. Try some lifting, then tell your supervisor about your back. Tell your supervisor about your back if it gets injured again. Tell your supervisor that lifting might be a problem.
What does this sign mean? Open the door by sliding it to the right. One-way pedestrian route. The site entrance is to the right. Escape route or emergency exit is to the right. What does this sign mean? Use the handrail. No gloves. Stop button. Do not touch. What does this sign mean? You must wear hearing protection. Caution, noisy machinery. Wear hearing protection if you want to. No personal electronic devices. What does this sign mean? Fire point. Accident and emergency department. First aid. Emergency assembly point. What are round red and white signs with a diagonal line? Mandatory signs, meaning you must do something. Warning signs, alerting you to hazards or danger. Prohibition signs, meaning you must not do something. Safe condition signs, giving you information. What does this sign mean? Warning, laser beams. Radioactive material. Warning, rotating object. High voltage. What does this sign mean? Drying area for wet weather clothes. Emergency shower. Toilets and shower facilities. Fire sprinklers above. What does this sign mean? Plant operators are wanted. Storage area. Industrial vehicles operating. Manual handling is not allowed.
What does this sign mean? Caution, poor lighting. You must wear safety eye protection. Safety glasses cleaning station. Warning, bright lights or lasers. What does this sign mean? Fire alarm call point. Wear flame-proof hand protection. Hot surface, do not touch. Emergency light switch.
What are blue and white signs? Prohibition signs, meaning you must not do something. Warning signs, alerting you to hazards or danger. Safe condition signs, giving you information. Mandatory signs, meaning you must do something.
What does this sign mean? Turn key to open fire door. Press here to sound the fire alarm. Fire hose reel located here. Do not use if there is a fire.
What does this sign mean? Slip hazard. Unstable surface. Water in work area. No barrier provided.
What does this sign mean? No entry during the day. No lone working. No pedestrians or entry for people on foot. No entry without a hard hat.
What does this sign mean? Wi-Fi enabled area. No mobile phones. Mobile phones are allowed. Mobile phone charging point. What does this sign mean? Do not use the tap. Not drinkable. Do not wash your vehicle. Not for washing.
What does this sign mean? No dirty footwear past this point. Wellington boots must be worn. Safety boots or safety shoes must be worn. Be aware of slip and trip hazards.
What does this sign mean? Safety gloves must be worn. Dispose of used safety gloves here. Safety gloves do not need to be worn. You must carry safety gloves at all times. What does this sign mean? Only white overalls allowed in this area. Remove overalls in this area. Safety overalls must be worn. Long-sleeved tops must be worn.
What does this sign mean? It tells you where the canteen is located. It tells you where to assemble in case of an emergency. It tells you which direction to walk. It tells you where the site induction room is located. What does this sign mean? Smoking is allowed. No smoking. Danger. Flammable materials present. No explosives or naked flames.
What does this sign mean? Warning. Substance or contents are combustible or flammable, can catch fire easily. Dispose of substance or contents by burning. Warning. Substance or contents could explode. Warning. Substance or contents are harmful. What does this sign mean? Safety helmets must be worn. Remove safety helmets in this area. Dispose of damaged safety helmets here. Only white safety helmets allowed in this area. What does this sign mean? Safety glasses cleaning station. Emergency eye wash. Warning, risk of splashing. Wear eye protection. What are green and white signs? Safe condition signs, giving you information. Mandatory signs, meaning you must do something. Warning signs, alerting you to hazards or danger. Prohibition signs, meaning you must not do something. What are yellow and black signs? Safe condition signs, giving you information. Prohibition signs, meaning you must not do something. Warning signs, alerting you to hazards or danger. Mandatory signs, meaning you must do something.
What does this sign mean? Fire extinguishers and firefighting equipment kept here. Do not store flammable materials here. Assemble here in the event of a fire. Parking reserved for emergency service vehicles.
Which two of these jobs are likely to need a hot work permit? Soldering pipework in a central heating system. Using the heaters in the drying room. Cutting steel with an angle grinder. Replacing an empty liquefied petroleum gas cylinder with a full one. Refueling a diesel dump truck. What does it mean if you see frost around the valve on a liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) cylinder? The valve is leaking. You must lay the cylinder on its side. The cylinder is nearly empty. The cylinder is full. What is the fire assembly point? Where people must go when the fire alarm sounds. Where the fire extinguishers are kept. Where the fire engines must go when they arrive on site. Where the fire started. A foam extinguisher identified by a cream band should not be used on which of the following type of fire? Flammable liquids, fuel, oil, varnish, paints, etc. Solid material fires. Electrical fires. Wood, paper and textile fires. What does a fire need to burn in addition to heat and fuel? Nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide. Where should you go if you hear the fire alarm? To the assembly point. To the site welfare facilities. To the site office. To the site canteen. What does a hot work permit allow you to do? Light a bonfire. Carry out work that needs warm protective clothing. Carry out work that could start a fire. Work in hot weather.
What does a hot work permit not tell you? Where the local fire station is located. When you can start and when you must stop the hot work. What fire extinguisher or fire watch you need. How you must prevent sparks or heat travelling. If your job needs a hot work permit, what 2 things would you expect to have to do? Have a fire extinguisher close to the work. Know where all the fire extinguishers are kept on site. Check for signs of fire when you stop work. Write a site evacuation plan. Know how to refill fire extinguishers. What are 2 common fire risks on construction sites? Uncontrolled hot works. 110-volt extension reels. Timber racks. 230-volt power tools. Poor housekeeping and build-up of waste.
How would you expect to find out the location of the fire assembly point? Your colleagues will tell you. During site induction. By reading your employer's health and safety policy. During a visit by the Health and Safety Executive, HSE. What happens to the nozzle of a carbon dioxide, CO2, fire extinguisher when it is used? It gets very warm. It gets very hot. It gets very heavy. It gets very cold. If you discover a fire, what is the first thing you should do? Finish what you are doing if it is safe to do so. Put your tools away. Raise the alarm. Try to put out the fire.
Which two extinguishers should not be used on electrical fires? Carbon dioxide, black colour band. Foam, cream colour band. Water, red colour band. Dry powder, blue colour band.
How can you help reduce the risk of fire? Leaving your clothes over a heater all night. Keeping your work area tidy and putting waste in the bins provided. Storing solvents and paints in the drying room. Storing materials and equipment along the exit routes. A large fire has been reported. You have not been trained to use fire extinguishers. What should you do? Leave work for the day. Report to the site office and then go home. Go straight to the assembly point. Put away all your tools and then go to the assembly point. A water fire extinguisher identified by a red band should only be used on what type of fire? Metal and molten metal. Flammable liquids, fuel, oil, varnish, paints, etc. Electrical fires. Wood, paper, textile and solid material fires. What must you check if you need to work in a corridor that is a fire escape route? That all doors into the corridor are locked. That your tools and equipment do not block the route. That you only use spark-proof tools. That you remove all fire escape signs before you start. What two main visual inspections should you carry out before using a power tool? Check switches, triggers and guards are adjusted and work correctly. Check it is marked with a security stamp. Check the manufacturer's label hasn't come off. Check the carry case isn't broken. Check the power lead, plug and casing are in good condition. Why should you use an RCD, residual current device, with 230-volt tools? It makes the tool run at a safe speed. It lowers the voltage. It quickly cuts off the power if there is a fault. It saves energy and lowers costs. Why is it dangerous to run an abrasive wheel faster than its recommended maximum speed? The wheel will get clogged and stop. The safety guard cannot be used. The motor could burst into flames. The wheel could shatter into many pieces. Why do building sites use a 110-volt electricity supply instead of a 230-volt domestic supply? It is cheaper. It is safer for the environment. It moves faster along the cables. It is less likely to kill you. You are in a gang using an insulated pick to break up the surface. What two things should you be aware of? Standing in front of or behind the worker with the pick. Standing with your hands in your pockets. Smoking, as gas could be released. Standing too close to the worker with the pick. Whether the ganger is watching you. You have been asked to use a hand tool or power tool on site. You know that it is the right tool for the job. What else must you check? That it is inspected before you use it. That it was made in the UK. That it was bought from a builder's merchant. That it is inspected at the start of each week.
You need to use a 230-volt item of equipment. How should you protect yourself from an electric shock? Wear rubber boots and gloves. Use a portable RCD, residual current device. Put up safety screens around you. Use a generator.
Which of the following statements about power tools is true? Always carry the tool by its cord. Always unplug the tool when you are not using it. Always leave the tool plugged in when you check or adjust it. Always unplug the tool by pulling its cord. What should you do if the head on your hammer comes loose? Find another heavy tool to use instead of the hammer. Keep using it, but be aware that the head could come off at any time. Tell the other people near you to keep out of the way. Stop work and get the hammer repaired or replaced. What two things should you do to reduce trips and injuries caused by untidy leads and extension cables? Tie any excess cables and leads up into the smallest coil possible. Make sure your cables have not been used before. Only use thinner 230-volt extension cables. Run cables and leads above head height and over the top of doorways and walkways. Keep trailing cables and leads close to the wall. What should you do if the guard is missing from a power tool? Try to make another guard. Use the tool, but work carefully and slowly. Use the tool, but try to work quickly. Not use the tool until a proper guard has been fitted. What is the main danger of using a chisel or bolster with a mushroomed head? It will shatter and send fragments flying into the air. You are more likely to hit your hand with the chisel head. The hammer could slip off the head of the bolster or chisel. The shaft of the chisel will bend, putting a strain on your wrist. What two things should you do if you need to run an electrical cable across an area used by vehicles? Cover the cable with a protective ramp. Wrap the cable in yellow tape so that drivers can see it. Cover the cable with scaffold boards. Run the cable at head height. Put up a sign that says ramp ahead. Someone near you is using a rotating laser level. What is the health hazard likely to affect you? None. If used correctly, they are safe. Burning of the skin, similar to sunburn. Skin cancer. Gradual blindness. You are using a power tool with a portable appliance testing PAT label on it. What information should be on the label? When the tool was passed as safe and when it was tested. The tool's earth loop impedance. Who tested the tool before it left the factory? When the tool was made.
Someone near you is using a disc cutter to cut concrete blocks. What three immediate hazards are likely to affect you? Harmful dust in the air, flying fragments, dermatitis, vibration white finger, high noise levels,
Why must you be fully trained before you use a cartridge-operated tool? They can cause dermatitis when used. They are heavy and could cause manual handling injuries. They have exposed electrical parts. They operate like a gun and can be dangerous in inexperienced hands.
Why should you try to use battery-powered tools rather than electrical ones? They will not give you an electric shock. They will not give you hand-arm vibration. They do not need to be tested or serviced. They are cheaper to run.
What are the two main functions of the guards on cutting and grinding machines? To balance the machine. To give you a firm handhold. To stop materials getting onto the blade or wheel. To stop you coming into contact with the blade or wheel. To stop fragments flying into the air.
Do you need to inspect simple hand tools like trowels, screwdrivers, saws and hammers? No, never. Only if someone else has borrowed them. Yes, they should be checked each time you use them. Yes, if they have not been used for a couple of weeks.
You are using a power drill when the fuse blows. A colleague shows you how to wrap the old fuse in silver foil to keep it working. What does this mean? Your boss will be pleased because you can finish the job. The drill is dangerous and could harm you. It's safe to carry on working. You don't need to worry about the fuse blowing again. What is the best way to protect an extension cable and also reduce trip hazards? Cover the cable with pieces of wood. Run the cable above head height. Run the cable by the shortest route. Cover the cable with yellow tape. You have been asked to dig to expose power cables. You have been given a cable avoiding tool, CAT, to detect them, but you haven't been shown how to use it. What should you do? Ask a colleague to show you how to use it. Tell your supervisor you haven't been trained. Read the manual before you start work. Dig the hole without it. What 2 things must you do if you need to use an extension cable? Only check the part of the cable you need for damage. Uncoil the whole cable. Clean the cable with a damp cloth. Check the whole cable and connectors for damage. Only uncoil the length of cable you need. What should you do before you adjust an electric hand tool? Switch it off, but leave the plug in the socket. Switch it off and remove the plug from the socket. You should never adjust an electric hand tool yourself. Put tape over the power switch.
When do you need to check tools and equipment for damage? Once a week, each time before use, at least once a year, every day.
Why should you never store batteries loose in your tool bag? If the terminals short out, they could cause a fire. Your tool bag will be heavy and damage your back. You might forget to charge them. They give off a poisonous gas in a confined space. What is the recommended safe voltage for electrical equipment on building sites? 230 volts, 24 volts, 110 volts, 12 volts. What should you do if you need to use a power tool with a rotating blade? Remove the guard so that you can clearly see the blade. Adjust the guard to expose just enough blade to let you do the job. Remove the guard, but wear leather gloves to protect your hands. Adjust the guard to expose the maximum amount of blade. What color is a 110-volt power cable and connector? Red, black, blue, yellow.
You need to work near an electric cable. The cable has bare wires. What should you do? Check there are no sparks coming from the cable and then start work. Quickly touch the cable to see if it's live. Tell your supervisor and keep well away. Push the cable out of the way so that you can start work.
You are using a generator to power some lighting when a lamp blows. You have a spare lamp. What should you do? Disconnect the lighting from the generator before replacing the lamp. Replace the lamp without disconnecting the generator, as you can't get a shock from it. Carry on working in the dark. Wait for a fully qualified electrician with an NIC/EIC card. When is it safe to work close to an overhead power line? If the power is switched off. If you use a wooden ladder. If you do not touch the line for more than 30 seconds. If it is not raining. You need to use an air-powered tool. What 3 hazards are likely to affect you? Hand-arm vibration. Leaking hoses. Radiation. Electric shock. Airborne dust and flying fragments. What should you do if the electrical equipment you are using cuts out? Switch the power off and on a few times. Shake it to see if it will start again. Switch off the power and look for signs of damage. Pull the electric cable to see if it is loose. What criteria must you meet to operate a power tool? You must only operate it when your supervisor is present. You must have a gold CSCS card. You must be over 16 years old. You must be trained and competent. How do you check if an RCD, residual current device, connected to a power tool is working? Press the test button on the RCD. Switch the tool on and off. Use a handheld RCD test meter. Run the tool at top speed to see if it cuts out. Press the test. What should you do if an extension cable has a cut in its outer cover? Report the fault and make sure no one else uses the cable. Check the copper wires aren't showing in the cut and then use the cable. Put electrical tape around the damaged part. Put a bigger fuse in the cable plug.
Which of these would you not expect to see if site transport is well organised? Barriers to keep pedestrians away from mobile plant and vehicles, speed limits, one-way systems, pedestrians and mobile plant using the same routes,
You think some mobile plant is operating too close to where you have to work. What should you do first? Look out for the plant and carry on working. Stop work and speak to your own supervisor. Stop work and speak to the plant operator's supervisor. Stop work and speak to the plant operator. What do you need before you can supervise any lift using a crane? Nothing. The crane driver will tell you what to do. Written instructions from the crane hire company. You must be trained and assessed as competent. A mobile phone so you can talk to the crane driver. You see a mobile crane lifting a load. The load is about to hit something. What should you do? Do nothing and assume everything is under control. Go and tell your supervisor or the site manager. Go and tell the crane driver. Try and warn the person supervising or banking the lift. What should you do if you need to walk past someone using a mobile crane? Run to get past the crane quickly. Take another route so that you stay clear of the crane. Guess what the crane operator will do next and squeeze by. Try to catch the attention of the crane operator. Your supervisor asks you to drive a dumper truck. You have never driven one before. What should you do? Watch other dumpers to see how they are operated. Tell your supervisor that you are not trained, so cannot operate it. Get on with it. Ask a trained driver how to operate it. Why must you not walk behind a lorry when it is reversing? The driver is unlikely to know you are there. Most lorry drivers aren't very good at reversing. Most lorries are not fitted with mirrors. You will need to run, not walk, to get past it in time.
How would you expect a well-organised site to keep pedestrians away from traffic routes? The site manager will direct all pedestrians away from traffic routes. There is no need to keep traffic and pedestrians apart. The traffic routes will be shown on the Health and Safety Law poster. There will be barriers between traffic and pedestrian routes.
What should you do if you see a dumper being driven too fast? Do nothing, as dumpers are allowed to go above the site speed limit. Report it to the police. Try to catch the dumper and speak to the driver. Keep out of its way and report it.
When is site transport allowed to drive along a pedestrian route? During meal breaks? Only if necessary and if all pedestrians are excluded. If it is the shortest route. only if the vehicle has a flashing yellow light. A crane has to do a difficult lift. The signaller asks you to help, but you are not trained in plant signals. What should you do? Ask the signaller to show you what signals to use. Politely refuse and explain you don't know how to signal. Start giving signals to the crane driver. Only help if the signaller really can't manage alone. You are walking across the site. A large mobile crane reverses across your path. What should you do? Help the driver to reverse. Start to run so that you can pass behind the reversing crane. Pass close to the front of the crane. Wait or find another way around the crane.
Which legal document must be supplied when an item of lifting equipment is delivered to site? A report of thorough examination. A repair or damage information sheet. A hazardous information sheet. A delivery note.
When you walk across the site, what is the best way to avoid an accident with mobile plant? Ride on the plant. Keep to the designated pedestrian routes. Get the attention of the driver before you get too close. Wear high-vis clothing.
You see a driver refueling an excavator, but most of the diesel is spilling onto the ground. What is the first thing you should do? Tell the driver immediately. Look for a spillage kit immediately. Tell your supervisor the next time you see them. Do nothing, as the diesel will eventually seep into the ground.
You think a load is about to fall from a moving forklift truck. What should you do? Keep clear, but try to warn the driver and others in the area. Sound the nearest fire alarm bell. Run alongside the machine and try to hold on to the load. Run and tell your supervisor. You see a lorry parking. It has a flat tyre. Why should you tell the driver? The lorry will use more fuel. The lorry can only carry small loads. The lorry could be unsafe to drive. The lorry will need to travel at a much slower speed. The quickest way to your work area is through a contractor's vehicle compound. Which way should you go? Straight through the compound if no one is looking. Around the compound if vehicles are moving. Straight through the compound if no vehicles appear to be moving. Around the compound every time. How would you expect to be told about the site traffic rules? By a health and safety executive, HSE inspector. In a letter sent to your home. During site induction. By a note on a notice board.
What are the two conditions for being able to operate plant on site? You must hold a full driving license. You must be over 21 years old. You must be authorized. You must hold a British passport. You must be trained and competent. A lorry is in trouble as it tries to reverse into a tight space. You have not been trained to assist. What should you do? Help the driver by jumping up into the cab. Stay well out of the way. Help the driver by giving hand signals. Offer to adjust the mirrors on the lorry.
A forklift truck is blocking the way to where you want to go on site. It's lifting materials onto a scaffold. What should you do? Wait or go round, but never walk under a raised load. Catch the driver's attention and then walk under the raised load. Only walk under the raised load if you are wearing a safety helmet. Start to run so that you are not under the load for very long. An excavator has just stopped work. Liquid is dripping and forming a small pool under the back of the machine. What could this mean? The machine has a leak and could be unsafe. It is normal for fluids to vent after the machine stops. The machine is hot, so the diesel has expanded and overflowed. Someone put too much diesel into the machine before it started work.
When can a mobile plant operator let people ride in or on the machine? As long as the site speed limit is not exceeded. Only if the cab door is shut. Only if it is designed to carry passengers and has a designated seat. Only if they have a long way to walk. You need to walk past a 360-degree mobile crane. The crane is operating near a wall. What is the main danger? You could be crushed if you walk between the crane and the wall. You could get whole-body vibration from the crane. Your hearing could be damaged by high noise levels from the crane. The crane could crash into the wall.
A truck has to tip materials into a trench. Who should give signals to the truck driver? Someone standing in the trench. Anyone who is wearing a high-vis coat. Someone who knows the signals. Only the person who is trained and appointed for the job.
When is a site vehicle most likely to injure pedestrians? While lifting materials onto scaffolds. While digging out footings. While tipping into an excavation. While reversing. You need to stack materials on a working platform. What is the best way to stop them falling over the toe board? Put a warning sign on the stack. Have brick guards or netting fitted to the edge. Cover the stack with polythene. Build the stack so that it leans away from the edge. You need to use a mobile access tower. The wheel brakes do not work. What should you do? Only use the tower if the floor is level. Get someone to hold the tower while you use it. Do not use the tower. Use some wood to wedge the wheels and stop them moving. What is the right way to reach the working platform of a mobile access tower? Lean a ladder against the tower and climb up that. Climb up the ladder built into the tower. Climb up the tower frame on the outside of the tower. Climb up the outside of the diagonal bracing. Which of the following is not true when using podium steps? Podium steps can easily topple if you overreach sideways. Podium steps are work equipment and must be inspected before use and every 7 days. Podium steps are safe and can't topple over. Podium step wheels must be locked before you get on. What is the best way to stop people falling through voids, holes, or fragile roof panels? Cover them with netting. Mark the areas with red and white tape. Tell everyone where the dangerous areas are. Use secure covers that can take the weight of a person and add warning signage.
When working in a mobile elevating work platform, MEWP, where should you attach your harness's lanyard? To a point on the structure or building you are working on, to the control box, to the designated anchor point within the platform or basket, to the MEWP handrail,
What does this sign mean? Fragile roof. Do not stand directly on the roof and use fall protection measures. Fragile roof. Take care when walking on roof surface. Load-bearing roof. The surface can be slippery when wet. Load-bearing roof. You can stand on the surface but not on any roof lights. How do you identify the safe load rating for a scaffold platform? Ask the principal contractor. Ask the telehandler driver. Refer to the handover certificate or signage. The safe load is breached when the ledges start to deflect. What should you do if you feel that a task working at height is unsafe? Carry on working and tell your supervisor when you next see them. Work the problem out for yourself. Stop working immediately and report it to your supervisor.
Who should check a ladder before it is used? The manufacturer. The person who is going to use it. The site safety officer. A supervisor.
What should you do when you're climbing a ladder? Have 2 people on the ladder at all times. Have 2 points of contact with the ladder at all times. Use a safety harness. Have 3 points of contact with the ladder at all times.
How many people should be on a ladder at the same time? 1, 2, 1 on each section of an extension ladder. 3 if it is long enough.
What should you do if you notice your harness or attachment is damaged? Swap it with a colleague's harness and use theirs instead. Stop and tell your supervisor straight away. Put the harness on, use it, and plan to tell your supervisor at the end of the day. Stop and tell your supervisor, but carry on using it until it is replaced. A mobile elevating work platform, MUP, is being used to carry out work at height. What is the only circumstance during normal use in which it is acceptable to lower the platform using the ground level controls? When the person using the ground level controls is competent to do so. In an emergency. If the person in the MUP needs both hands free to carry out the job. If the person in the MUP has to jump off to gain access to the work. What should you do if you find a ladder that is damaged? Use the ladder if you can avoid the damaged part. Don't use it and make sure that others know about the damage. Try to mend the damage. Don't use it and report the damage at the end of your shift. Which type of accident kills the most construction workers? Being hit by a falling object. Being run over by site transport. Contact with electricity. Falling from height.
You are working on a flat roof. What is the best way to stop yourself falling over the edge? Put a large warning sign at the edge of the roof. Ask someone to watch you and shout when you get too close to the edge. Protect the edge with a guardrail and tow board. Use red and white tape to mark the edge.
How is working at height usually defined? Working 1.2 meters above the ground or higher. Working 2 meters above the ground or higher. Working 3 meters above the ground or higher. Working at any height that would cause an injury if you fell.
When using a ladder, what should the slope or angle of the ladder be? 85 degrees. 75 degrees. 60 degrees. 45 degrees.
What are two of your responsibilities when working at height? Climb up the outside of the scaffolding. Ignore the safety briefing given by your supervisor. Ensure you are sufficiently trained. Throw things to your colleague below. Make use of access equipment.
What is the best way to make sure that a ladder is secure and won't slip? Tie it at the bottom. Ask someone to stand with their foot on the bottom rung. Wedge the bottom of the ladder with blocks of wood. Tie it at the top. If you store materials on a working platform, which statement is correct? Materials must be stored so they can't fall, and the platform must be able to take their weight. Materials do not need to be secured if they're going to be there for less than an hour. Materials can be stored, unsecured, above the guardrail height. Materials can be stored anywhere, even if they pose a trip hazard or block the walkway.
required to use access equipment that you have not been trained to use. What should you do? Do the job if it won't take long. Get a ladder instead. Ask someone else to do it. Stop work and speak to your supervisor. A mobile access tower must not be used on what surface? Soft or uneven ground. A smooth concrete path. A paved patio. An asphalt road.
Who should erect, dismantle, or alter a tube and fitting scaffold? Anyone who has the right tools. Anyone who is trained, competent and authorised. Anyone who thinks they can do it. Anyone who is a project manager.
What is the best way to stop people being hit by falling tools and materials when you are working above them? Only allow authorised people underneath the work area. Tell them you will be working above them. Exclude people from below the work area with fencing. Make sure they are wearing safety helmets. If you have to work at height in a mobile elevating work platform, MEWP, over or near to deep water, which item of personal protective equipment, PPE, should you wear? Wellington boots. Life jacket. Full face respirator. Full body harness. According to the work at height regulations, when can you use a ladder at work? If you are doing low-risk work for a short time. If other people do not need to use it for access. You must never use a ladder on site. If it is long enough. What is the main regulation that controls the use of suitable access equipment for working at height? Workplace Health, Safety and Welfare Regulations. Lifting Operations and Lifting Equipment Regulations. Work at Height Regulations. HSG 33 Health and Safety in Roof Work.
A scaffold guardrail must be removed to allow you to carry out a survey. You are not a scaffolder. Can you remove the guardrail? Yes, if you put it back as soon as you've finished. No, only a scaffolder can remove the guardrail, but you can put it back. Yes, if you put it back before you leave site. No, only a scaffolder can remove the guardrail and put it back.
What is the maximum recommended gap between the scaffold and the structure? No greater than 225 millimeters. No greater than 350 millimeters. No greater than 470 millimeters. No greater than 600 millimeters. When is it safe to cross a fragile roof? If you walk along the line of the bolts. If you do not walk on any plastic panels. If you can see fragile roof signs. If you use crawling boards with handrails. You need to use a ladder to get to a scaffold platform. Which of these statements is true? It must be wedged at the bottom to stop it slipping. It must be tied and extend either 1 meter or 5 rungs above the platform. 2 people must be on the ladder at all times. All broken rungs must be clearly marked. What might happen if the level of oxygen drops below 8% in a confined space? You could become unconscious. Your hearing could be affected. You might get dehydrated. There is a high risk of fire or explosion.
When digging, you notice the soil gives off a strange smell. What is this likely to mean? The ground has been used to grow crops in the past. The soil contains a lot of clay. The ground could be contaminated. The soil has been excavated before.
What should you do if your permit to work in a confined space will run out before you finish the task you are carrying out? Hand the permit over to the next shift. Ask your supervisor to change the date on the permit. Carry on working until the job is finished. Make sure that you leave the confined space before the permit runs out.
Before work starts in a confined space, how should the air be checked? Someone should look around to see if there is toxic gas. Someone should go in and sniff the air. The air should be tested with a meter. The air should be tested with a match to see if it stays alight.
What equipment must you use to hand dig near electrical underground services? A jackhammer, a pick and fork, an insulated spade or shovel, an excavator.
What must happen each time a shift starts work in an excavation? A supervisor should watch from the top for the first hour. Someone must go in and sniff the air to see if it's safe. A competent person must inspect the excavation. A supervisor should stay in the excavation for the first hour.
Give 2 reasons why methane gas is dangerous in confined spaces. You may not have enough oxygen to breathe. It makes you hyperactive. It makes you dehydrated. It can explode. You will not be able to see because of the dense fumes.
You are in a deep trench and start to feel dizzy. What should you do? Make sure that you and any others get out quickly and report it. Get out, let your head clear, and then go back in again. Carry on working and hope that the feeling will go away. Sit down in the trench and take a rest.
What is the safest way to get into and out of a deep excavation? Use the buried services as steps. Use the shoring. Use an excavator bucket. Use a fixed staircase. Work in a confined space usually needs a risk assessment, a method statement, and what other safety document? An up-to-date staff handbook. A company health and safety policy. A written contract for the work. A permit to enter. Which of these is the most accurate way to confirm the exact location of buried services? Cable plans. Trial holes. Survey drawings. Architect drawings.
You have to work in a confined space. There is no rescue team or rescue plan. What should you do? Carry out the job in short spells. Assume that a rescue team or plan is not necessary and do the job. Get someone to stand at the opening with a rope. Do not enter until a rescue plan and team are in place.
What is the main reason for having a person positioned immediately outside a confined space whilst work is taking place inside it? To start the rescue plan if there is an emergency. To check compliance with the method statement. To carry out a risk assessment for the work. To supervise the work inside the confined space. You are working in a confined space when you notice the smell of bad eggs. What is this a sign of? Oxygen, hydrogen sulfide, methane, carbon dioxide. What two things should you do before entering a confined space that has sludge at the bottom? Identify what the sludge is. Throw something into the sludge to see how deep it is. Have the correct training and put on respiratory protective equipment, RPE, before you go in. Put on a disposable face mask before you go in. Put on a pair of Wellington boots.
When digging, you hit and damage a buried cable. What should you do? Dig round the cable or dig somewhere else. Wait 10 seconds and then move the cable out of the way. Do not touch the cable, stop work and report it. Move the cable out of the way and carry on digging.
According to the guidance on underground service pipes, what does a yellow service pipe carry? Gas, water, telecoms, electricity. What is the main cause of people dying while working in a confined space? Presence of methane, too much oxygen, cold conditions leading to hypothermia, lack of oxygen. What should you do if you see the side supports move when you are working in an excavation? Keep watching to see if they move again. Work in another part of the excavation. Make sure that you and others get out quickly. Do nothing as the sides move all the time. Which one of the following is the most important reason that people should be trained and competent before they are allowed to enter a confined space? Confined spaces are only found on house building sites. Confined space entrants need to understand the potential hazards. Confined spaces always contain flammable or explosive gases. Confined spaces never contain breathable air. When should an excavation be battered back or stepped? If any buried services cross the excavation. If it is more than 5 meters deep. If there is water in the bottom of the trench. If there is a risk of the sides falling in regardless of depth.
You are in a deep trench. A lorry backs up to the trench and the engine is left running. What should you do? Get out of the trench quickly. Ignore the problem. The lorry will soon drive away. See if there is a toxic gas meter in the trench. Put on ear defenders to cut out the engine noise.
When digging, you find a run of coloured marker tape. What does it mean? There are buried human remains, and you must tell your supervisor. There is a buried service, and further excavation must be carried out with care. The excavation now needs side supports. The soil is contaminated, and you must wear respiratory protective equipment, RPE. What should you do if you are in a confined space when the gas alarm sounds? Get out of the confined space immediately. Carry on working, but take plenty of breaks in the fresh air. Carry on working, but do not use electrical tools. Switch off the alarm. What do guardrails around the top of an excavation prevent? Rainwater running off the ground at the top and into the trench. The sides of the trench collapsing. Toxic gases collecting in the bottom of the trench. People falling into the trench and being injured. How should you dispose of a container or any residue which has this sign on the label or packaging? If it is a liquid and less than 1 litre, you can pour it down a drain. Leave it somewhere for other people to deal with. Follow specific instructions on the label or in work instructions. Put it in any skip or bin. What should you do if the heaters are on and the site cabins are too hot inside? Remove some clothing. Turn down the heaters. Nothing. Open the windows or doors. What are 2 of the best ways of helping to save energy on site and reduce harmful emissions? Switching off plant and equipment, including generators, when they are not in use. Using a generator rather than mains electricity for small items of equipment. Reporting any defective non-powered hand tools so that they can be repaired or replaced. Keeping windows and doors closed in welfare facilities when the heating is on. You are on site and need to throw away some waste liquid that has oil in it. What should you do? Pour it into a sealed container and put it into a general waste skip. Pour it slowly onto the ground and let it soak away. Pour it down a drain or sink in the welfare facilities. Ask your supervisor or environmental advisor how to get rid of it. Which of the following activities is not good practice on site? Burning waste. Switching off plant and equipment when it is not in use. Refueling carefully to avoid spills. Storing materials safely. Which 2 of the following are classed as hazardous waste? Polythene and shrink wrap. Fluorescent light tubes. Broken ceramic tiles or bricks. Glass. Used spill kit pads containing oil. What does this sign mean? Corrosive. Harmful to the environment. Toxic. Harmful.
Which 2 actions could help minimize waste? Always take much more than required, just in case you need it. Leave bags of cement and plaster out in the rain, unprotected. Reuse offcuts, such as half bricks, as far as possible, rather than discarding them. Use new materials, packs, at the beginning of each day. Only take or open what you need and return or reseal anything left over.
Which of the following would not be classed as causing a nuisance to a site's neighbours? Noise and vibration from construction activities. Lorries and heavy plant approaching and leaving the site. Carefully directed site lighting. Dust and fumes from site.
You've been asked to clean up oil that has leaked from machinery onto the ground. What is the right way to do this? Put the oily soil into a separate container for collection as hazardous waste. Put the oily soil into the general waste skip. Wash the oil away with water and detergent. Mix the soil up with other soil so that the oil cannot be seen. How should you get rid of hazardous waste? Take it to the nearest local authority waste tip. If the waste has a hazardous symbol on it, then it can be put in any skip on site.
Place it in the correctly labelled container or ask your supervisor.
Put it only in a mixed waste skip.
What are the two main reasons why different types of waste should be separated on site? So the wastes can be used or recycled more easily. So the client can check what is being thrown away. It is generally more cost-effective to dispose of segregated waste. The waste will take up less room in a skip. To make sure the labourer has enough work to do. You are carrying out a noisy work activity and realise that it cannot be finished within the normal working hours of your site. What is the first thing you should do? Ensure you are wearing appropriate hearing protection before you resume work. Carry on so that you can finish doing the job as soon as possible. Stop work and inform site management so they can look at the impact of working hours. Visit your site's neighbours to tell them what you will be doing. You notice that a detail can't be built in the way it has been designed. What should you do? Keep quiet, as it will mean more work for you. Raise the issue with your supervisor before you start work. Leave that detail out altogether. Use your experience and build it as you think it should be done. Under environmental law, which statement is true? Only companies can be prosecuted if they do not follow the law. Only directors can be prosecuted if they do not follow the law. Only employees can be prosecuted if they do not follow the law. Companies and employees can be prosecuted if they do not follow the law.
You discover a bird on a nest where you need to work. What should you do? Cover it with a bucket. Scare it away. Make others aware of its presence. Move it, do your work, and then put it back.
Which three of the following statements are reasons why saving energy is important? It means energy companies can charge more for their services. It helps to save declining natural resources used to create energy. It helps reduce energy and fuel bills. It helps to reduce the impact of climate change caused by burning fossil fuels. It allows us to increase energy use on other sites.
Which of the following should be disposed of as hazardous waste? Part full tins of oil-based paint. Softwood timber offcuts. Glass fibre insulation. Damaged hard hat.
While excavating, you notice some interesting old coins in the loosened soil. What should you do? Hide them. Archaeologists working on site will hold up works. Stop digging and contact your supervisor. Keep digging and see how many more you can find. Keep quiet. You found them, so you can keep them. Do you have any responsibility for minimizing the amount of waste created? Only during the site cleanup at the end of the project. No, it is the responsibility of site management. Yes, everyone on site has a responsibility to do this. Only if you are told to do so during your site induction. What should you do if there is an oil or diesel spill on site? Ignore it. Oil or diesel spills do not have serious long-term effects. Stop work, contain the spill, notify your supervisor, and then clean up the spill. Use a spill kit to clean it up before the end of the day. Call the Department for the Environment immediately so they can arrange to have it cleaned up. You would like to store a pallet of bricks in a space under a tree. What should you do? Place them there, as they will not be in the way. Do not place them there, as compaction of the soil over the roots can damage the tree. Only place them there if you can avoid damaging your vehicle or branches. Only place them there if they will not be damaged by passing vehicles.